Every makeover comes with something we didn't expect. We call these our Murphy's Law moments. We uncovered one today when we were getting ready to change one of the inefficient windows to one of the new weather bar windows. So the guys had to remove the vinyl siding to gain access to the flanges that were holding in the old aluminum window. And when that happened, they uncovered some moisture down at the bottom around the bottom plate of the house. And we determined that the moisture was coming from above because the house doesn't have any gutters, and this piece of concrete from the driveway is flowing back toward the house instead of away. So in the meantime, we also found some more problems. And we've talked for years about how air infiltration is one of the single most culprits to an inefficient house with high utility bills. And ways to stop that is proper caulking and sealing on the front end or before you put in on the sheetrock and the siding. So while we have the house exposed today, we're going to point out some of the deficiencies in this particular section of the house. So what we have here is the existing window frame, and I'm going to use a piece of wire to just show you that there's a big gap all the way around this frame, and I can push that wire in about 4 inches. It's going all the way in, and there's no caulking and sealing around this area. So where would the air come from? Well, as we're going to show you in just a minute, there's an area wide open to the crawl space, which is a vented crawl space venting to outside. So air moves through the vents, up through insulation, fiberglass that's not installed properly, and by its very nature, air moves through fiberglass insulation. And the fact that it's not installed properly, we also have electrical penetrations where air is moving through the penetration, up from under the insulation that's not installed properly, along the stud areas where the insulation's not fitting properly, and then into areas around receptacles, under the jambs here, and even down here at the bottom plate where the sheetrock meets the floor. There's no caulking and sealing there. How do you fix that on the front end? That's where any two places, like right here, where two boards come together, caulking and sealants are applied. And you can see, look how far that's going in. That's actually touching the sheetrock. So any place where there's any cracks and obvious openings like that, those should be caulked and sealed. And we recommend foam insulations and densely packed cellulose to stop that airflow. This is a huge problem here, but the solution will be foam insulation, proper caulking and sealings, and then we're going to replace the rotten wood at the bottom with new wood, and we'll create a flashing that will force the water to move away from the house, and we'll even do some work with the concrete to make the water run off into the driveway. Another area of tremendous air infiltration we uncovered when we removed the vinyl siding to change the window was the area around an abandoned fireplace. We knew through our initial blower door test that we had a lot of area coming around the hearth and the rock front that exists in the living room. We also revealed through infrared thermal imaging that we did have a large amount of air rushing in from behind the rock. Well, by removing the vinyl siding, we've exposed that particular area. And if you can see from my hand all the way to the top, there's a huge gap in behind the brick. I've used a piece of wire to show you a little bit more, but I actually had that wire pushed into that cavity, and it was actually sticking out in the living room where the wire came out from behind the rock. So this is where a lot of the air was coming into the house in the wintertime, making the living room very uncomfortable and cold, likewise very hot in the summer. So what's the solution? We will fill this void with a high expanding foam insulation which provides an air barrier to seal it up, a thermal barrier which will insulate it as well, and also a moisture barrier so none of the hot humid air in the summertime can transfer into the cooler, drier air inside the house.